Well, I've finally engineered my perfect rig for creating vertical videos. For me, that means TikTok videos and Reels. And there were a few things I needed this rig to do to make it the ideal setup for me. First, it needed to be compact and easy to set up anywhere at any time, meaning it also needed to be travel friendly. Second, it needed to produce outstanding video and audio quality. And third, it needed to have a wide field of view combined with a shallow depth of field, because that's the look I'm going for when creating my vertical videos. So let's dive in now. I'll walk through each and every gear piece that I've got here and talk about some of the mistakes I made along the way that eventually brought me to this perfect rig. Well, hey there, I'm Brady Shearer. This is Pro Church Tools, and we're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. If we're just meeting for the first time, consider subscribing, hit the little church bell to turn on notifications, and make sure to connect with me on the vertical video platforms as well. TikTok and Instagram especially. The handle is @BradyShearer for both, and then they're linked in the description as well. Okay, let's get this out of the way from the start. This is my ideal, perfect rig for vertical videos. For most of us though, a mobile device, a phone, is the ideal, perfect rig for vertical videos. My first love is videography, which is why I have this rig. It is not essential, it is extra, but I do love it. That's the first disclaimer. The second is that the camera on this rig is probably the least important item. The camera body I'm using is the Sony FX3. It's been my main workhorse camera for about a year now. It's a $5,000 US camera body. And the reason I got it is because it does every single thing I've ever wanted a camera to do. So this is not my vertical rig camera, it's my every rig camera. I've shot aerial footage out of a helicopter with it. I've shot YouTube videos with it. I've shot cinematic B-roll with it. I've shot vertical videos with it. It's my one camera that does just about everything. But for this specific application, it's overkill. It's the camera I have, so I'm using it here, and that was the point of this camera, so I could do it all with one camera body. But you could swap in the newly announced Sony a7 IV, half the cost of the FX3, and you wouldn't notice any kind of drop off in quality. You could swap in any number of DSLR or mirrorless cameras. And that's because for vertical videos being delivered on social, there's a ton of compression that's taking place. 4K resolution is not yet supported at the time of this recording, so you don't need an overly expensive camera to pull off a rig like this. So long as your rig does have a couple of key things. Let's talk about those. But first, here's what the finished product looks like right now for my vertical videos. This is the framing I'm using, the depth of field, and this is also how I style titles and captions. Now, right now, universal support for automatic captions isn't quite there across all of the platforms, so we're still titling those captions, titling our videos ourselves right into the video itself. In our experience, captions play a massive role in the success of short vertical videos. And the nice thing about doing the titling ourselves is that we get to use our brand fonts. And for those curious, the title font we use is National, and the caption font is Calibre or Calibre. I've heard it pronounced different ways. Back to the rig itself. There are only 4 pieces of gear in the whole rig, which has got to be a record for me. If you look at this previous rig I used for vertical videos, it was much more complicated. I was using the same tripod, but I had a much bigger audio setup with a shotgun mic, XLR module, shock mount, extendable arm. The camera had a cage, teleprompter with a phone. I'll link that video in the description if you want to see that more extravagant rig in full. Perhaps that'll be a good fit for you. For me, it became too much over time, and it actually got in the way of me creating because it was a hassle to assemble. And for me, I have this principle about gear. If the gear you're using is causing friction, if it's creating unnecessary hurdles or barriers between you and what you're trying to create, it doesn't matter how beautiful the image is or how capable your gear is, it's a bad fit. Gear should be working for you, not against you, which is how I came to this more minimal 4-piece rig, camera, lens, mic, and tripod. We already touched on the Sony FX3, the camera. The nice thing about the FX3 is it doesn't need a cage to be mounted vertically because it has 5 accessory threads on the body itself. So I can attach the tripod plate directly to the camera on its side and then mount the camera vertically on the tripod without having to get an additional accessory like a cage or do something funky with the tripod head by turning it, all the way to the side and thereby limiting its range of motion from that spot when I need to frame up the shot. The tripod here is the Peak Design travel tripod, the carbon fiber version. Again, these are the tripods we basically use all the time at our company. We searched for the ideal travel tripods for the longest time, and these came out as the clear winner. And by the way, all the gear is linked in the description. None of the links are affiliate links or anything. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not really our thing, and no one paid us to make this video. For the mic, this is the Sony ECM-B1M shotgun microphone. What's nice about this mic is that it connects directly to the camera through the multi-interface shoe that powers the mic and connects it to the camera, so no need for cables or wires or batteries. And then the lens, the item that's contributing more than any other to the final look of these videos, it's the Sony 28mm f2. So those are the 4 items that make up this rig. Let's talk now about that previous rig I showed you of ours, that monster, and how we got to this one from there. I already mentioned the cage. Prior to acquiring the FX3, we were shooting with the Sony a7S III, basically an identical camera with a few small exterior changes, one of them being the accessory threads. The FX3 allowed us to ditch the cage. We also got rid of the shotgun mic, the XLR module, the shock mount, the extension arm, replaced with the on-camera mic. Huge improvement there on the side of the rig, but it did come with a decline in the audio quality. Now for a YouTube video, for me, that wouldn't reach the level of quality I'd want, but on TikTok and Reels, where again, most people are creating with their phones, this on-camera mic is gonna give us better audio than most, which is more than enough for what's expected and common on these platforms. Here are the mic settings we use. We've got the directivity pattern, super directional, the low cut filter is on, and then for audio level, it's set to auto. And again, that's not something I would do for a YouTube video where I'd want more granular control over the levels, but for this lean setup with minimal post-production required, having the audio levels at auto has been perfect for us. And now let's talk about the visual look. On the previous rig, you surely noticed that we had a teleprompter attached. That was the Parrot Padcaster. And for a long time, the teleprompter was really the sticking point of the rig. Every one of my YouTube videos is scripted. I'm reading off a teleprompter right now. It's how I prefer to prep and produce our videos. The problem with that on a vertical rig is that when I'd mount the camera vertically and attach the teleprompter, the aspect ratio would invert, and you wouldn't be able to capture a wide angle field of view without the teleprompter, like without the edges being seen. So you'd have to zoom in. But the problem with that is then I'd have to be further away from the camera, which is why we introduced that long extension arm for the shotgun mic, and then had to introduce the XLR module. Even more importantly, zooming in or using a longer lens would eliminate the look we were trying to achieve, which is that inverted wide angle of view that you're seeing here. This is my ideal look for a vertical video. Shallow depth of field, wide angle, vertical. This is important, not just because I like how it looks, but it also maximizes the real estate you have in your vertical videos. Because when you account for the interface icons that will be overlaid on top of your video when published, not to mention the titles and captions we're adding, if you're not making the most of the real estate you have available, you're really making it more difficult on yourself than it needs to be. So we got rid of the teleprompter, and this was the difference in looks that we essentially got. In this first example here, this is a regular horizontal 16:9 video that we've cropped in to be 9:16 vertical. And it's just not visually compelling for me, because it wasn't made for vertical. On the other hand, this is a video shot natively 9:16, no cropping needed, and you can see the difference is clear. Now, I do still script my vertical videos word for word, but instead of reading them from a teleprompter, I just memorize sections bit by bit, and then we jump cut from section to section. Again, not my preferred way of recording for a long form video like this on YouTube, but for a short form video on TikTok or Reels, where the vibe is very informal and casual, jump cuts fit right in. And after producing our videos this way for a while, we realized that this kind of recording workflow, it wasn't even a concession, it actually ended up producing a better video for this format. We even started using J-cuts in our edits here, where we'd start the audio of a new section before the video came in. Here's an example of that, the church space, and people say things on the internet. The thing is though, when you see these kinds of comments over the years, and the final point I want to hit on is the shallow depth of field. This was something that was very important to me. I wanted to have that ultra shallow look. For that to work, I needed a camera with great autofocus. Fortunately, those are pretty common nowadays. The autofocus tech on virtually every major brand has really come a long way, Sony included, so check there. And then we needed a wide angle lens with a wide aperture. And that's why we went with the Sony 28mm f2. The concession there is that it's a prime lens, no zoom, but the bonus is that it's a really small and light lens, which works perfectly with the rest of the rig. The FX3 is also a full frame camera, which helps a ton with shallow depth of field. And then to maximize what's possible with the camera and lens combo, I need to get real close to the camera itself when I'm filming, and by doing this, which again is made possible by removing the teleprompter and makes this on-camera mic usable because I'm so close to the lens when filming, by doing this, the depth of field is so shallow, my eyes will be in focus while my shirt won't be, let's say. And I love this look for vertical video on social platforms. This rig allows for it. A couple more notes: we shoot in S-Log3 in 4K, downsized to 1080p, edit in DaVinci Resolve. The color grading side of things is its own thing, but we have a video dedicated to color grading and how we do it. If you want to learn more on that front, it's linked above me and in the description. And then if you're a church wanting to learn more about social, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I've got a full workshop on that. It's free. It's the social media crash course for smaller churches, also linked above me and in the description. In 45 minutes, you'll have everything your church needs to make sense of the complicated world of social media. Again, completely free. Thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. We'll talk soon.